morning, everybody. And after that amazingly impressive session by our Honorable Finance Minister, who happened to say on a lighter note that, aren't you recognizing the women here? Here we are. So the thought-provoking comments that our Honorable Prime Minister left us with, which a lot of you would have heard, she actually planted the seed of thought that even in the G20, one of the biggest topics that the world is talking about right now is how to create borderless finance, how to enable seamless cross-border payments and remittances, both in terms of sending money out of India, enabling Indians to make payments for goods and services they consume from out of India, as well as enabling the inward remittance corridor of allowing the humongous global expat Indian community to send money back to India, as well as anybody who has financial dealings with India to be able to seamlessly make payments and send money back. So really honored to be kicking off the GFF sessions on the stage, talking about this hot topic on fintech innovation and using that to revolutionize the world of cross-border payments and remittances. As Kavya introduced, as the CEO of Revolut India, it's, we're revolutionizing this world, and we're working on building a solution to be able to make digital banking, payments, and remittances seamless for all Indians, like we have done in 44 countries globally already. And with me, I'm honored to have someone who you just saw on screen a moment ago, Christine Tan, who's the head of the Financial Institutions Group at APAC for JP Morgan. And over to you, Christine, to introduce yourself and let us get to know you a bit before we dive deep into the session.
Absolutely honored. Thank you, Paroma. And good to see everyone. Good morning. Very energized, first of all, with the attendance and participation. It's my first one for GFF in Mumbai. So great to see the number of people coming in from various countries to participate. So I've been with JP Morgan for over 11 years, but been in the banking industry for 26 plus. Now I'm confessing my age. Essentially, we cover the financial institutions, non-bank financial institutions, including fintechs, across 18 countries. And very pleased to say that we're very committed in this region, as well as in India, where we have a key bench strength in terms of technologists supporting the firm globally. So again, very honored to be here with you.
Thanks, wonderful to have you here. I know you keep coming to India, but great to have you with me on stage. Before we start, just a quick show of hands to get to know you a little better. How many of us have more than 50 apps on our phones? Wow. Looks like it is almost 70 to 80% of the room has more than 50 apps on their phone. How many of us use at least 20 of them in a month? Another 60 to 70%, more than half the audience uses more than 20 apps in a month. And how many of us use about 10 apps in a day? That's slightly less than half, 20 to 30% of the audience. Okay, interestingly, so that's statistics for you. Do you know how many apps we've got live in India? Any guesses from the audience? Sorry? We have 1.85 lakh, which is 185,000 unique apps in India. Now, there is this whole concept of super apps, right? This was coined as a buzzword after originally Apple said that in 2009. Whatever your need may be, there's an app for this, there's an app for that. The term super app was coined in 2010. But what does that really mean? Ever pause to think about it? Is it about one single app, a superhuman app that does it all? I mean, a conglomeration of all the 100 apps that we all have on our phone? Or is it about looking at those 9 or 10 apps relevant to a particular need or a use case that you use every day, and being able to integrate that seamlessly into an experience using one app. So I think overall, we at Revolut are working with a thesis that you'll hear more about through the course of the sessions today as well, on creating a solution for customers, a banking, payments, and remittance solution for customers. And we offer that to 70+ features that we can find a simple way to offer, compared to about 30-odd features on a single fintech app that exists on an average in this market, and combined with a lot of other use cases which you may or may not use. So that sort of looks like what the fintech real user app landscape here is. And on that note, why don't we start off, Christine, with how many apps do you have on your phone?
So over 60 plus.
You have 60 plus.
Yes, and half the page is actually for work related too, but the rest are all mix of apps.
Yeah, there you go. And how many of them are fintech apps?
Significant. So
Significant.
I think over 50%.
Okay, not for competitive benchmarking, but for actual usage?
Yeah, so I'm obsessed, and I'm a global citizen. So essentially, a few apps that I'm, to your point, the super app concept. Instagram to help me relax. Of course, WhatsApp to chat for free. And then LinkedIn to stay connected. And then because I shop around in many jurisdictions, so I'll have the financial apps as well, the fintech apps, to make my purchases throughout the weeks or days.
Got it. And which is your payment app of choice, if you want to share?
Of course, we're here with the Revolut CEO, but I do have the bank apps. I do use credit cards and multiple apps to make the cross-border remittances as well.
Got it. So with that segue into cross-border remittances, since you have the advantage of having used multiple apps for this purpose in different countries as a global citizen, can you share some nuggets of experiences on what the landscape is like out there in different countries, different apps? How are they solving for cross-border payments and remittances, both outward and inward?
It's a great question, Paroma. So the Asia-Pacific region is so vast and diverse, and it's really hard to defy any generalizations, but not when it comes to fintech adoption. So these apps, I think, are very relevant, particularly in Asia. And we are seeing also the digital and mobile payments accounting for more than half of the e-commerce flows in 2022 and throughout this year. And we have to agree that digital payments are rapidly becoming part of the fabric of everyday life. And so therefore, fintech partners are actually looking for a streamlined digital experience, comprehensive payment method offering, and also emerging tech maturity. And that's key trends for this industry as we speak. And with these emerging trends, it's essential as well that fintech should find a partner to help navigate complexity, as we've heard throughout the teams today, in terms of the global market, the regulatory landscape, the industry evolution, as well as key trends and practices. So we look to guide and maximize our business partners by helping them to reduce capital, reduce costs, reduce risks such as FX and liquidity, and hopefully also be able to engage with all of you in terms of reviewing regularly your data and actively helping you to find opportunities to add value to your clients and enhance performance. These are really key themes. I think it resonates here in India. But I've wanted to kind of go back to your point in terms of the cross-border remittances. It's becoming very prevalent. And we have a lot of overseas workers today that are needing to bring back money home to support their family and communities, such as India, Indonesia, Bangladesh, and Sri Lanka in this region. And what we've done is we've observed as well that over the years, over 24% of the India payments inwards are actually from India diaspora, sending money back home to the tune of over 100 billion. And finally, I'd want to comment in terms of collaboration and innovation. So we have an organization within the payments team within JP Morgan looking at innovation on blockchain, and the organization's called Onyx. So we've come together to solve some of the challenges about remittances in terms of validation of data, and we call that link confirm. So one use case study, and I'm sure it's also relevant whether it's India and other jurisdictions, that when you're sending money back home, you've got a lot of error-prone activities like name and account number. And we've leveraged technology on blockchain to be able to then provide that confirmation back to the remitters. And it's really minimizing costs and saving rejection rates as well. So we're thrilled to be partnering, collaborating, and innovating in the community.
Interesting, and it's great that we have a bank that is partnering with this entire tech ecosystem to drive innovation in this space in the region. And it was an interesting insight that you shared. So in India, out of the 40 billion digital transactions that happen, and you heard our Honorable FM also share that data point, $83 billion worth of remittances that happen from India. And the interesting nugget you added is 24% of the remittances received in APAC is from Indians sending money out. So that's how huge it is. And this is growing at 16% per annum in India. Last year saw the highest growth rate in this particular space in India. So absolutely, the time is ripe to disrupt this. Like the domestic payments ecosystem in India has been disrupted with the UPI, where you have every merchant, even a corner shop in India, accepting QR code-based payments. Anybody, regardless of their level of education, are being able to use their app as UPI payments to make domestic payments. It is high time for us to come together and make cross-border payments as seamless as sending money to somebody else domestically as well. The challenges that we're witnessing in India right now, Christine, is first, it's that of access. Because the way it is a lot of it is physical outlet-based. And therefore, a lot of Indians in the smaller towns and cities may not have access to be able to easily initiate a cross-border payment or a remittance transaction. Second is that of affordability. Given the physical nature, as well as the task of converting Indian rupees into foreign currency with a prevalent exchange rate at a point of time, and even though the rupee has remained stable, to be able to peg it with fluctuating currencies and be able to offer an affordable conversion solution is the second challenge. The third is speed. Just the pure documentation, verification, processing, and then be able to first initiate a payment from a bank, then transfer it to another bank overseas, and then eventually transfer it to the bank account of either a merchant that you're making a payment to or an individual that you're making a payment to. It easily takes between 2 to 3 days. And an individual easily spends between 3 to 5% of the amount that they're trying to send on actually making the payment. And last but not the least, after access, affordability, and speed, is that of security. This entire thing of whether when I initiate a payment or a remittance transaction, are my funds going to be secure, and transparency, whether I will have visibility to be able to know where my money is at any given point of time. So those are the challenges that we're trying to solve for in this particular space through an app and an end-to-end digital solution, being able to offer every Indian the ability to send money abroad, no matter how small. Having our own treasury management to be able to offer the best-in-class conversion rates to the population over here. Be able to do that in the same day, near real time, which is of value, particularly in cases like education fees to be submitted before the deadline, or a hospital admission fees to be paid to admit somebody into a medical institution overseas. So we're trying to solve for that as the third, and obviously creating a very strong verification stack solution to be able to verify the identity of the individual who's trying to send the money from here, as well as the identity of the person who's supposed to receive the money on the other side, and being able to do the end-to-end transaction in a secure form. So those are the 4 key challenges here, how we're looking to resolve them. And again, going back to you, you spoke about similar challenges elsewhere. How are some of the other players solving for those? And if there are any other key challenges that you've noticed in this particular space in the region?
Absolutely agree with the points that you've just commented, Paroma. So in addition to that, I just supplement, the competitive landscape in payments has shifted from the seamless experience that is now taken for granted to a contextual experience such as smart contracts, embedded finance, and services models. So a bank's value proposition is within its ability to send reliable, global, and scalable payments across the globe. And in comparison, fintechs offer the agile solutions that can offer to the niche clients and audiences that are very focused and targeted. So we're now entering the period where ecosystems between banks and fintechs are driving partnerships to excel and actually innovate further. So it's quite an exciting times, and some of the specific ways that I'll call out in these partnerships are specifically API access. So bank has the infrastructure to actually provide this access to other financial services and fintechs, and in turn, collaborate with the fintechs to actually scale up their offerings and offer their clients a seamless experience. So that's one way. Secondly, I think everyone's called out in terms of navigating the strict regulations, very vast and complex in this region particularly. So banks can also assist fintech with our experience and knowledge developed over the years on navigating the rigorous regulations that come with the financial services sector. And this enables fintechs to carefully broaden their reach through the industry. And last but not least, immediate access to advanced technology. So another crucial advantage of the alliance between banking and fintechs is direct access to the latest software and technology. And these are usually delivered in the form of white labels to banks and financial services. So this is a way where banks can actually leverage the innovation and technology and reduce the time to maintain and develop their in-house treasury, and hopefully save time and resources.
Got it. So the 3 key things that, Christine, you're telling us is partnerships, remittances, and regulations, and technology.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting. Let me take you up on each of these. Partnerships is a hot topic over here, particularly between banks and fintechs. Now, I can share with you that between Christine and I, JP Morgan and Revolut, we share an amazing, if I may say so, collaborative partnership between the 2 organizations to try and enable this and make it happen. But the hot question about bank and fintech, compete or collaborate? It is something which is there, whether banks perceive the fintechs and what we're trying to do as a threat to the core business, or banks actually are receptive to taking what we're trying to do, and there is a space of solutions that have not yet been solved for, which we're trying to solve for, and that is welcomed with open arms. This is obviously an ongoing debate, discussion, live action here in this forum that a lot of us are seeing on an ongoing basis. How have you seen this materialize wherever you have partnered with fintechs to enable innovation, since you called out partnerships as the #1 enabler through which you've managed to disrupt the ecosystem?
Sure. So fintechs bring the technology and agility mindset, while many banks contribute to offering the base infrastructure that has been established over the years. And so this end, the combination of introducing the end-to-end digitization of various customer journeys and helping banks to quickly commercialize, while fintechs can benefit from the scalability offered. That's collaboration. So to answer your questions, there's not a defined answer. Competition is really essential, and having competition is healthy, and ultimately it brings about benefiting the consumers who have the ability to choose between banks, wallets, and fintechs. And that's, at the end of the day, JP Morgan wants to be part of that partnerships that deliver for the clients. Now, secondly, we're also collaborators, as you've highlighted, and collaboration is key to growth in the payments business. A prime example is we've actually done a joint venture with a European car company, Volkswagen, in creating mobility payment solution. And the intent there is for us to focus on the future of cars, as well as driving the payments ecosystem, which can then innovate through the auto sector as well. So we're quite excited with that. The company continues to look for partnerships and collaborations, and we would either assess whether the solutions are relevant for our own banking offerings. We would also look at investing in some of these companies and leveraging the technology to provide, at the end of the day, the best client experience. So we're so excited. One other client journey that I just wanted to share with you and the audience is that we also support clients on the rollout of new features and functionality. And so we are the co-founder of an entity called Partio, which is intended to do multi-currency settlement on blockchain technology 24/7. And we have actually gone live in Singapore with the regulator supporting this initiative. Partio is now adding more currencies. We've gone live with Sing dollars, US dollars, and they're adding Australian dollars, euros, GBP, as well as renminbi into the mix. And so we're seeing the technology really transform the industry, and it's moving at a very fast pace. So finally, we're very honored to be supporting Revolut globally in navigating the complexities of the industry itself. And helping you in terms of client payouts as well as the client monies across the globe.
Got it. Yeah, so the way you kind of shared that, you see the fintechs working in the space of being able to create the end-to-end digitized customer journey and experience, and the bank to work on helping create attractive commercials and create seamless settlements so that the two come together to offer an end-to-end solution for the consumers. I think that's a beautiful way of putting this entire bank fintech collaboration as a concept, and wherever it overlaps, you think the competition's healthy.
Yeah.
All right. That's a great note on the partnerships. Now, picking up on the same second point that you spoke about, which is regulations, right? In India, particularly in the cross-border payments and remittances space, the way the regulations are is there are authorized dealer category 2 licenses that are available in the market in order for players to be able to fix their own rates and be able to do the exchange rate and offer that the best that they can based on their model with that license. There is also the ability to be able to issue cards which are multi-currency for people to be able to use those cards in partnership with an issuing network like a Visa or a Master or a RuPay, when RuPay is going in places where RuPay is going international as well, to be able to use those cards in order to make payments physically abroad when an Indian travels abroad. So those are the two base ones that the regulators enabled. And other than that, there are regulations that govern initiating remittances seamlessly for a non-bank entity for use cases like education, health, and travel. So that's the framework with which an entity, a non-bank entity, can get into the cross-border payments and fintech space and remittance space in India. But the transaction initiation under LRS still has to happen with the Schedule I commercial bank. So inherently in the way the framework is, there has to be a partnership between a bank and anybody else, a non-bank who has the license as a fintech, to be able to seamlessly offer these experiences. So that's the lay of the land as far as regulations in this space in India currently are concerned. What are the kind of regulations that prevail in the rest of the region, and which ones have you seen as help or hindrance towards the cause of making seamless cross-border payments and remittance happen?
Yeah, Paroma. So Asia Pacific is indeed very vast and diverse, and India fits right in the middle of the spectrum of countries. It's quite interesting how, despite the limitations of convertibility, the innovation in the cross-border space, as you've highlighted, is becoming very prevalent in India. And with the help of a relatively forward-looking regulator, I would have to say. So let me talk about the partial convertibility and how I agree with the regulator's view in terms of a cautious approach for the currency. For a developing economy like India, going for full capital account convertibility could be a risky proposition. And we saw that in the 1990s in the Asia financial crisis that has triggered a prudent warning in terms of currency and capital account management that could potentially trigger currency crisis. So I think the cautious approach of the regulator in India has augured well in managing the balance of payments until the trade essentially grows to a significant extent. And the liberalized remittance, which is available today, has come a long way to help support a globally connected economy while keeping the currency stable. So the innovation aspects, despite the restrictions in currency, has continued to grow, and the regulators themselves have been supporting a lot of sandbox in the country, especially for ourselves, IFSCA in Gift City, which has triggered the remarkable ability to do blockchain settlement 24/7 with 6 banks in Gift City. So we're quite thrilled. And finally, I think the rupee pilot, which is also quite encouraging and puts India ahead compared to the rest of the region. But I think we've heard earlier in the session with the Madam Minister as well, that there are sandbox as well as the innovation around cross-border payments on real time. And we've actually seen that very prevalent with Singapore partnering with India, Singapore partnering with Thailand on prompt pay, Malaysia, et cetera, so it is getting more seamless and fast.
No, absolutely, and I would nudge in this group that anybody who has any further ideas in this particular space, use the sandbox framework that the regulator has given us. We'd love to partner with you to make some of these things happen in order to actually innovate and disrupt a much needed space that is awaiting innovation right now if you look at the entire financial product suite. Just to round off this particular bit, on regulations, again, there's a lot of debate and discussion around activity-based versus entity-based. Coming to cross-border and remittance, what do you believe? Should the activity of doing cross-border payments and remittances be regulated? Or should an entity that is engaging in that activity be the one to get regulated, agnostic of what other financial services that entity offers? What's your take on this?
It's a combination, I would say. Triggering innovation is the right thing in terms of technology, but at the same time, consumer protection and balance in terms of the currencies is also equally critical for a country. So we've seen a good balance across the region in terms of regulators promoting initiatives to be able to help make the experience for consumers more seamless, but at the same time also making sure that there's stability in the currency and reserves as well. So I find that, I think it's exciting times for us in this journey with regards to, taking advantage of technology, but also unlocking new perspectives. And for over 150 years, we're completely obsessed with payments. Payments are more than just transactions, and it's really through engagement with the regulators to be able to then do the right thing for the company, for the regulations, and for the consumers at the end of the day.
Got you. So in a nutshell, basically, I guess what we're both saying is when it comes to the cross-border payments and remittance space, let it not be a footnote as another activity or another product to be bundled into a group of products on a particular app. Let's step back, look at the actual customer need and journey, and create a solution for that, which is what we're trying to do. 1. 2 is ride this entire digital adoption wave of 85% plus penetration of digital adoption of fintech products in India. And therefore, if we actually are able to offer the simple solution that we have in mind, we believe that the Indian consumers are ripe to lap it up. They're waiting for even cross-border to become end-to-end digital. And I think the regulators also, as you heard, the regulator, the ministry, are all waiting for us to come up with solutions to make that happen. That's two. Third is obviously use of technology, which we all know. We don't need to talk about anymore, not in this forum and group for sure. Fourth is partnerships being key, where the fintech players focus on looking at the end-to-end customer journey and making that seamless, and partner with the banks in order to be able to offer it at the most affordable rates for Indians and at the lowest speeds to make it as quick as possible for Indians. So that is sort of the model which can solve for these problems of access, affordability, security, and safety of the transactions and the speed of transactions in the cross-border payments and remittance space. And we will obviously look forward to evolving regulations that come through us operationalizing such digital solutions in this country to see how far it can scale to get as much of that $85 billion worth of remittances to happen digitally. On that note, we're, I guess, Christine, open to take any questions specifically that the audience may have for us. Yes, the fastest finger first. Could we have the mic? How many questions can we take? 4 questions. Got you. Thanks.
So I wanted to ask you, what challenges do you see in terms of the cross-border payments, in terms of the future, in terms of rolling it out? What immediate challenges do you see in that?
Question to me or to her?
Pardon?
Question is to me or to her?
We can do both, Paroma.
For her? Okay, the challenges you see as a bank. Go on.
So maybe I'll start, and then you can also chime in. I think definitely from an opportunity standpoint, there are 3 things, right? One is speed. And essentially, that's critical across this whole region. I think clients and consumers do want that. So really picking up speed and ability to be able to understand the dynamics in terms of what's doable and what's not, that's number 1. Secondly, being prepared for digital business, and that's really critical as the world moves. I think you've highlighted earlier 100 apps per person, and so therefore this digital business is not going away, and you need to then look forward in terms of opportunities to enhance that. And then last but not least, automation. It's like part of everyday life. We've gone through COVID, and ability to automate and navigate through virtual versus in person. That's kind of moving away into the new world now. So speed, digital business, and automation. We're extremely honored. We move $11 trillion a day for most banks and fintechs and non-banks. And so that also comes with the regulatory landscape, as well as trust and safety. So having speed, automation, digital business, it also comes with investment to making sure that your money's protected, it's secured, and it's safe for your clients at the end of the day.
If I may add, so she spoke about the consumer-based challenges that we're here to solve for. In order to operationalize and actually offer the solution, what are the challenges that we're facing while doing that, if that was a part of your question as well? Then the first thing is, I'll again tell you, what we speak about solving for affordability, it's not easy, right? It's always easy if the kind investor community over here keeps putting VC money into us and we decide to build a business model around giving that money back to users in the form of affordability. That's a different strategy. But given the Revolut ethos to build a profitable and sustainable growing business, if you intend to do this business with a positive unit economics, being able to offer the right rate to the consumer where there is the pricing makes sense for the consumer, as well as there is some margins inherent in the chain for the companies that are involved. Striking that balance during exchange rate conversions with fluctuating currencies is probably the #1 challenge in this particular place. Now, that would be global. Coming specifically to India, the second challenge, and I don't know if challenge is the right word here because there is a right reason for doing it, is the entire KYC verification and onboarding. I will go so far as to say naturally, when you're looking at cross-border transactions, you have to be more vigilant in order to ensure you've established the right identity of the customer who's initiating sending money outside the borders, as well as you've managed to establish the right identity of the recipient who's actually receiving it on the other side of the border. So that's the second challenge as companies to solve for in order to verify and establish identity of a genuine customer with a genuine need on both sides of the border and be able to do it in a digital manner. So that's the second thing to solve for in order to deliver this, the second challenge, if you will. The third used to be there, which is still regulations necessitating certain limits. Only certain types of entities can do certain types of things in the entire chain. But there's a need for that too. Given that that has not yet been disrupted, we haven't seen how responsibly the different people in the chain will take on their duties. But having engaged actively on this particular space with the RBI and with the ministry, and you're hearing this is a topic being discussed at the G20 summit. This was part of the governor's address at the G20 pre-meet yesterday as well. So the fact that that is the next big thing that the ministry and the regulator is looking at coming out, I am hopeful of progressive regulations coming in to at least take that challenge away. But I would say those would be the top three in terms of actually making affordability a reality, actually be able to verify identities across the border and do it in a secure manner, and third, looking forward to progressive regulations coming out in this particular space from a company's lens. Does that answer your question?
Great, yes, very much so. Thank you.
All right. Question number 2. OK, all the 3 people in the front row seem to have raised their hands, and I don't know if this is the front bencher, back bencher syndrome. Yeah, go ahead.
All right, so my question is regarding how decentralized finance fits into the whole cross-border remittance. I know JP Morgan invests $12 billion each year on technology. So how much of that, is being diverted to blockchain efforts? And also, will blockchain replace the current system as is, or will it be an either-or kind of system?
Christine, you might want to.
Great question. And we actually have a session the next few days on specifically this topic. So we have a key team out in Asia and globally. It's represented in terms of global projects within blockchain. So certainly, I think there's a lot of bench strength here in Asia that's actually innovating for the global infrastructure. And on the blockchain decentralized, I think we've highlighted as well earlier on Partio. So that is an ecosystem that's actually endorsed by the government in terms of looking forward in terms of the rails that could potentially be the settlement systems 24/7. And within India itself, we also have Gift City that we've piloted with 6 banks. So that's also another rail that's actually now live and successfully piloted to enable blockchain for 24/7. And so we're quite excited in that regard.
Gotcha. I think there was a third question here, a fourth on that table, and the last, that lady, if you permit me to take 5. One last question, and I will go for that lady who still got her hand raised way up in the sky. Yes, please.
Thank you for this opportunity. My name is Seema. I'm a business analyst. My first concern is, in context of India, the major problems are security concern, like militancy, if you are talking about the cross-border payments. So militancy, terrorism, and all those things. So that concern, if you can give any glimpse on it, how we will do the securely. And second is the data localization and data storage issue. Because if we are doing the payment from one country to another country, then there will be the issue of storage of data. So
I'll take that up because that's our bread and butter.
Yeah.
Okay. So first, the area that you spoke about, okay, there is an entire unit at the RBI and in all financial institutions, including ours, which is an anti-money laundering and cross-border funding of terrorism. AML-CFT is the jargon that is used there. So we have an active team to be able to filter any new customers who are applying to get onboarded for a solution like this. To give you an example of some of the things that we do, most of the countries, starting from the United Nations, there are sanctions lists. There are a list of entities who you should not be able to onboard. So it's about being able to screen your customers against those sanction lists. Then having other, and this one I can't tell you in public because that's a secret sauce, and there has to be a secret sauce that sets Revolut apart, right? So there you have your own intelligence to look at surrogates with which you're able to look at this kind of high-risk behavior through the kind of associations that a customer who's applying to onboard themselves in order to initiate a cross-border payments has. So broadly, since I can't elaborate, I can keep talking about this. The two things we look at is standard sanctions screening lists, obviously ensuring we comply with the KYC and verification norms that are laid here to verify a customer, and having our own edge of being able to use different kinds of associations to be able to identify a potentially high-risk customer who's trying to come in and use our platform. That is when a customer comes in. Now, there's no guarantee. I mean, somebody could be innocent when they come on, and some event in their life could have turned them later, right? So then it comes to transaction monitoring. So when a customer's their ongoing transactions are monitored very actively to see triggers of behavior around who they're sending money to. And like I said, in cross-border, it's a little more complex because it's on both sides. So you have to see the behavior and the risk of the person who's sending, as well as the people that they're trying to send to. So ongoing transaction monitoring on the second side becomes the other key. So in a net summary, at onboarding, making sure we're on top of it, and ongoing transaction monitoring to actively keep looking at the transactions that are happening in order to ensure that no solution becomes a conduit for any such money laundering or funding of terrorism activities, for sure. That's a no-no. So that's the first part of your question. What was the second part of your question?
So maybe if I can just chime in that's 16 countries for us in terms of data onshoring and the considerations to navigate the local requirements as well for banks.
So now the second part of your question linking to that, I think, was around data storage and data localization
particularly.
So now that, again, if you're a global company, there is a complexity because different countries have different data localization, data integrity, data sovereignty norms. Some countries are absolutely open. They're OK with data and information flowing seamlessly across borders as well. There are other countries who are a hybrid, one level removed from there, where they're OK with data being sent abroad as long as they're segregated and stored so that there's a firewall and the data doesn't pass through or percolate between two different systems. And then there is a third, which we are in India, where you want the India leg of customer personal identifiable information and transaction information to be hosted on-site in India. But then the transactions that you're sending abroad have to necessarily be sent abroad. So you will literally need to keep two sets of data that you store, one on Indian soil, on Indian cloud in today's world, if you will, which does not go out, and be able to use that information to send funds out and the money out in a cross-border payments and transaction scenario, and just the information that is needed on the cross-border side in order to successfully process a remittance on the beneficiary account side, and the beneficiary account details, those being stored abroad. So technologically, I didn't come to that because, like I said, that is Revolut's bread and butter, but possibly that's the fourth challenge for anybody to get into this space, to create this entire localization and the tech stack and the ability to store data in different containers depending on what the regulations in different geographies are. Does that answer your question? All right, and with that, since she's on stage, I think that's all we have time for. And thank you from both our ends for being a lovely, patient audience in the kickoff session for this GFF, and looking forward to the rest of the sessions through the day.